Okay, students, so we're going to continue to look at using equations in geometry, and we're going to continue to focus on angles. And I'm going to be using a lot of vocabulary today that you might not be super familiar with, so feel free to pause the video if you need to write down any of this vocabulary. We're going to go through 3 different types of angles that you should know. An acute angle is an angle that is less than 90 degrees. So it's tiny and it's acute. A right angle is an angle that is exactly 90 degrees. And right angles always have that little square in the corner. So that's one way to know that you're looking at a right angle, is looking for that little square. An obtuse angle is an angle that is greater than 90. So our obtuse angles are big. So that's one way to remember. And we talked about this a little bit in our last video. A straight line or a straight angle is 180 degrees. Today we're going to focus on 2 new vocabulary words, complementary. Complementary means if you take the 2 angles and you add them, so if I were to add my 65 plus my 25, they add up to 90. So angles that add up to 90 are complementary. Angles that add up to 180, like this picture here, 65 plus 115, they add up to 180. Those are called supplementary. So we're going to focus on complementary and on supplementary angles. So we're going to look at this diagram here, and we're looking for 2 angles that are complementary. Complementary means they add up to 90. So right away we know this angle in the corner wouldn't work because it already is 90 degrees. But if we're looking at these 2 angles over here, these 2 green angles, we could see that 47 plus 43 equals 90. Well, that's going to help us if we don't know one of the angles, but we're trying to solve for it. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a diagram, and we're going to solve for the missing angle. Okay, so we're looking at our first diagram, and the first thing that I notice is that we have this box in the corner. And so that tells us that that is a 90-degree angle. So the angle in between these 2 lines is 90. But if I look at the picture, I can see that this is actually made up of 2 smaller angles, this green angle and this red angle. And so I'm going to write an equation to solve for the value of x. So my green angle, 5x, plus my red angle, 15, those add up to a right angle, which is 90 degrees. So now I have a 2-step equation that I can solve. So the first thing that I would do in a 2-step equation is I would subtract 15 from both sides. Then I would have 5x equals 75. I would then divide both sides by 5, and x equals 15. So I'm using equations to solve for a variable. Now, if I look at this next picture, what I have here is I have a straight line. Imagine it's straight. I drew it, so it's not perfect. And so once again, the 2 angles, the green angle here and the red angle, add up to make the straight line. So we're going to write an equation by adding the green angle, 4x, plus the red angle, 30. And what will those equal? Well, they're a straight line, and we know that a straight line is 180 degrees. So now we're going to solve our 2-step equation. The first thing we always do is subtract 30 from both sides. So we have 4x equals 150 We're going to divide both sides by 4, and we get x equals 4 goes into 15 3 times, which would be 12, so we've got 3 left over. 4 goes into 30 7 times, which would be 28, so we have 2 left over. We need a 0, and it would go in 5 times, so 37.5. You might have to write that out using long division, but x equals 37.5.